My sister stood in my $850,000 residence before the family gathering, grinning. "Dad promised this as my wedding present," she declared. "You honestly believe this is your property?" My father chuckled after I invested $760,000 in it. "You don't fit in here," he added. I remained silent, simply extracted the title document and messaged them. You genuinely think this is your residence?" Emma stated, her voice bouncing off the tall ceilings as if she already possessed the place. She was positioned in my living area, shoeless now, footwear discarded by the hearth like she was assessing square footage before finalizing the purchase. "Dad committed this house to me as a wedding gift." She rotated and gazed at me as if I was intruding. I still clutched the bottle of Cabernet in my hand, the one I purchased for the family reunion I thought we were about to experience. My fingers tightened around its neck. I hadn't even offered a greeting. Then Dad entered, glanced at me, then at Emma, then past me as if I were invisible. "You brought wine," he remarked, "but you aren't welcome here." That was it. No embrace, no pleasant to see you. Just a casual elimination of the $760,000 I had invested into this property over the previous decade. My entire savings, 10 years of grueling freelance assignments, 2 simultaneous jobs, no holidays, no financial cushion. They stood in my kitchen, and behaved as if they'd caught me trespassing. I didn't utter a word. I simply approached the drawer beside the stove, removed a transparent sleeve containing one pristine document, and placed it on the counter. Dad glimpsed it, squinted slightly, his jawline twitched. It was the title deed. Then I took out my smartphone, composed, no drama, just a single message I had drafted months earlier, not because I anticipated using it, but because I recognized someday I might need to. Family group chat. It's sold. Silence. Emma's complexion drained. Her smirk vanished. She surveyed the room again, the hearth, the canyon vista, the wooden floors, the same way individuals observe something they realize they'll never touch again. "You're lying," her voice cracked. I didn't respond. She was unaware the papers were signed yesterday, that the funds already transferred, that escrow closed 2 hours before they barged in. But it was never really about the house. Not truly. It was about the presumption that regardless of how much I contributed, regardless of how far I progressed, I would still be the child they could step over. Well, not anymore. And when the entryway finally closed behind them, I didn't feel angry. I felt liberated, because this wasn't the conclusion. This was the beginning, and they had no concept of what was approaching. The worst aspect? I wanted to believe they didn't intend it that way. Even after that incident in the kitchen, Emma arrogant, Dad cruel, me quiet. I still convinced myself perhaps it was merely a misunderstanding, perhaps they were under pressure. But the reality about family is that when someone reveals who they truly are, and you still hope they'll be someone different, you become your own captor. This didn't start last week. It began years ago. I was the one who settled Emma's student debts when she abandoned college twice. I was the one who transferred money when Mom claimed her card was compromised and they were awaiting reimbursement. I sent $1,000 here, $2,000 there, always just until next month for 6 years. Never received a penny back, never even received a gratitude note. I covered the taxes on my parents' property 3 times, and they never even noticed. They assumed the county stopped sending notices because they were senior citizens. I paid Emma's vehicle insurance for 2 years after she wrecked her own and blamed it on an icy driveway in July. Then she purchased a new car and shared selfies with it on Instagram with the caption, "Some of us were just born fortunate." No mention, no acknowledgement, just a stolen moment from someone else's finances. Still, I said nothing. I was the unseen safety net. I earned good money, so they thought they were entitled to it. Until I bought that house. That house changed everything. Suddenly, I possessed something they couldn't ignore, couldn't absorb into their chaos. And they despised it. It started subtly. One evening, Emma sent a message in the family group chat. "Can't wait to relocate to my dream home. Big developments coming. Stay tuned." I didn't react, but I noticed Mom appreciated the message. Dad replied, "That's my girl. You always merit the best." 2 minutes later, Emma sent me a private message. Don't act astonished if we have the reunion at your place. You're the one with the spare rooms. Then the public activities began. A photograph of my house taken without my knowledge posted to her Instagram story, manifesting my future view. I texted her, "Where did you obtain this photo?" She left me on read. Then came the fundraiser. Yes, the fundraiser. Emma launched a GoFundMe titled, "Help Us Construct Our Family Dream Home." And in the description she wrote, "This property has been in our family for generations. My brother is just the placeholder." Placeholder. As if I was renting my own existence. People started sharing it. Distant relatives, former classmates. She raised $14,000 in 3 days. I confronted her. She stated, "It's not personal. You're just too attached to material things. You always were." Then just when I thought it couldn't deteriorate further, the video emerged. A 22-second clip on Facebook. Dad walking through my hallway, giving a fabricated tour of his future son-in-law's home. Right here is where we'll install the pool table Emma always desired. That'll probably knock out this wall, enlarge the kitchen. Gotta create space for grandchildren, of course. We're grateful to our son for maintaining the utilities in the meantime. 700 likes. Dozens of comments. Wow, looks incredible. Can't wait to visit. Nobody knew the truth. That the house was in my name. That the mortgage was paid from my account. That the only thing they possessed was entitlement. That's when I stopped playing along. I started investigating. I remembered something, Emma's old hard drive. She used to carry it everywhere, boasted that she backed up everything. I never delete. You never know when you'll need a receipt. I went to my storage unit, found a backup she left years ago when I helped her transfer laptops. Plugged it in, waited. At first it was just junk. Selfies. Folders labeled bridesmaid, inspiration. Files named LOL for final_VE3.pdf. Then I saw the folders, X's, family, fakes, do not delete, screenshots for proof. I opened family. Inside were dozens of edited screenshots. Text she altered to make it appear I threatened her. Emails rewritten. My words distorted into threats and insults. She even had voice memos stitched together to fake angry voicemails from me. I listened to one. "You don't matter. I hope your life collapses." My voice, but cut and assembled like a ransom note. You could hear the choppiness if you listened carefully, but who would? She was preparing for something. I copied everything. Then I checked the timestamps. Some of those messages were from dates when I was out of the country. She didn't just manipulate the family. She constructed a case. A case for what? I didn't know yet, but I wasn't waiting to discover. I started my own file. And then the final fracture. 3 nights before the reunion, I received a text from one of Dad's old friends, Ron, a guy I hadn't communicated with in years. "Just FYI, your dad's been showing people around the house. Told me he's gifting it to Emma. Is that accurate?" I didn't reply. Instead, I phoned a realtor, the same one who assisted me buying the place. And I said 4 words I thought I'd never say. "Let's list the house." They arrived in coordinating colors. Emma in ivory and pearls. Mom in some kind of floral arrangement, and Dad in a blazer he only wore when he wanted people to think he still had authority. They arrived early, of course they did, because they thought it was already theirs. The reunion was scheduled to start at 5 o'clock, guests arriving around 4:30, but at 3:48 p.m., I heard the gate code beep and 3 sets of footsteps echo across the marble entry of a house I had already sold. I was waiting in the kitchen, calm, focused. I had arranged everything exactly how I wanted it. Dad stepped in first, looked around like a landlord conducting a final inspection. "So, this is the big goodbye, huh?" He remarked. "Well, better late than never. Just signed the transfer papers after the party and we're settled." I didn't answer. Emma followed him in, paused in the living room, smiled broadly like a bride walking down the aisle. "God, I can't wait to repaint this place. Maybe that awful gray can finally disappear. No offense." Mom was last. She didn't say anything. She never did. Just observed. I let them speak. Let them settle in. Let them climb just high enough to enjoy the view before the descent. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there he was. Zach, Emma's ex, the one she humiliated and discarded. The one who moved out after they drained him dry. He looked sharper than I remembered. jacket, folder in hand. Emma's face shattered. "What are you doing here?" Zach didn't respond. He stepped inside, nodded to me, and placed the folder on the kitchen counter. "I think it's time the family witnessed the real Emma," he said clear and loud. Then he opened the folder. Inside were screenshots, transcripts, and a printed timeline of messages and voice memos pulled from the hard drive I found. Dated, verified, enhanced. My friend in digital forensics owed me a favor. Emma lunged. "This is fake. You can't just bring garbage here. Sit down." My voice emerged lower than I expected. It didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like law. She stopped. Dad moved toward the folder. "Read one page." "Just one." His face didn't move. Then I spoke. "This is a message Emma sent to Zach's employer posing as a former girlfriend. Try to get him terminated." Silence. "This is a fraudulent text chain she created between me and her, where I supposedly threatened her." I pulled out the tablet I had set up on the dining table and tapped the screen. A voice recording played. My voice, but stitched, glitchy, broken between tones. "You're nothing. I've always detested your existence." Dad flinched. Mom stepped back. Then I dropped the drive on the table. "Everything she's ever fabricated. It's here. Dated. Stamped. Recoverable." Emma was trembling. "You're creating a scene," she screamed. "No," I said. "I'm ending one." Then came the second guest. My grandfather, Dad's father. He hadn't spoken to any of us in over a year, but he was the only person I ever trusted to call things as they were. He stepped inside, quiet and intimidating in his own way. Dad's face went pale. Grandpa approached the table, examined the papers, then looked at Emma. "You always were your father's child," he said. Then turned to Dad. "You lied. You exploited this boy. You stole from him, and you allowed your daughter to do worse." Dad finally cracked. "Don't come into my house," and "It's not your house," I said. I pulled a white envelope from my back pocket and slid it across the table. "This is the final transfer agreement. Signed, witnessed, finalized yesterday." Emma blinked. "You sold the house." "Yes. Full market value. No discount. No gift. No inheritance." "But Dad said." "Dad lies." She turned to him. "You promised." He snapped. I said what I had to say. "You think this is about you? I built this family." Grandpa raised a hand. "No, you ruined it." Then I looked at all of them. At Emma, who exploited me. At Mom, who permitted her. At Dad, who orchestrated every manipulation like a tired con artist executing his final trick. "You said I didn't belong here," I stated. "So I'm departing. But I'm taking everything you thought was yours with me." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't remain for the rest of the gathering. Didn't wait for the other guests to arrive. I left them standing in a house they thought they owned, surrounded by evidence they built their deceptions on a foundation of stolen loyalty. And the only thing louder than the silence behind me was the sound of that front door slamming shut. I didn't go home that night. Not the next day either. I checked into a hotel, one of those quiet, expensive ones I used to scroll past and think, maybe someday. I booked 2 weeks, paid in advance, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I needed distance. I needed to stand apart and examine my life without them in the frame. Room service, coffee on the balcony, long walks without my phone. I texted my manager, said I was taking a personal week, then turned everything off. Day 1, the first call came. My mother. Then another. Then another. 18 missed calls in a single day. I didn't answer. Day 3, my father breached the silence. "What have you done?" "Everything's disintegrating." I stared at the text. Saved it in a new folder titled, "That's Their Burden Now." Day 5, Emma appeared at the hotel. She didn't know my room number, but she stood in the lobby in oversized sunglasses, holding something in her hand. A paper? A folder? Maybe another performance. I saw her from the elevator, paused, and stepped back inside and let the doors close. Let her stand there. Day 9, the notary called. The money had cleared. The house was officially sold. The account I created quietly months ago was now active, untouchable, and completely beyond their reach. I didn't feel triumph. I felt stillness. Later that night, I did something I've been postponing for years. I filed the LLC paperwork for my own agency. A small, discreet business offering property audits for people who suspect financial abuse or familial fraud. No social media campaign, no grand reveal, just a website and a waiting list. Turns out many people are tired of being used by those who claim to love them. Clients came rapidly. An old colleague, a friend of a friend, even an investor my father once mocked for lacking sufficient courage. He reached out with a contract and a check. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a contingency plan. But back at their house, the chaos had commenced. A neighbor from the old street texted me. Your mom came by requesting to borrow money. Said you were having a disagreement. She was tearful. I told him, don't believe a word. I'm not part of that narrative anymore. He understood. Week 4, I received a letter from a bank. Confirmation that my name was officially removed from all accounts related to my parents' mortgage and expenses. They now had full financial responsibility. If they didn't pay, collections would pursue. I didn't flinch. I didn't call to explain. I didn't ask if they were okay. I just deleted the last password from my vault. That week I got a message from my mom's old colleague. She says, you've transformed. Bet you're out to destroy your family. That you're not the same son. I replied with one line, I just stopped destroying myself. That was the last response I ever gave. No lengthy monologue. No confrontation. And then finally it grew quiet. No more calls. No more guilt surges. Just quiet. But not the lonely kind. The peaceful kind. The kind that lets you sleep without tensing your jaw. The kind that lets you prepare breakfast without wondering who's going to ask for something next. The kind where silence isn't punishment, it's freedom. The last time I saw any of them was the day I closed the door on that house. My house. Now someone else's. 2 months passed. No calls. No messages. Nothing. Until the whispers started. It wasn't a reunion. It wasn't regret. It was damage control. One of my agency contacts forwarded a name from a fraud screening report. Someone applying for housing assistance under questionable income history. The applicant, Emma. Co-signers? My parents. I didn't intervene. I didn't respond. I just made a mental note. They're still attempting to manipulate the system, even without me in it. A week later, my accountant called. Someone had tried to file a joint enterprise form using my old credentials. The IP address traced back to my father's town. Game on. But I didn't shout. I didn't warn. I just cut. Closed every remaining shared account. Canceled the last access permission my mother had to just check the balance. Renamed my agency. Re-registered the legal entity under a new parent company. Pulled every last thread they could have used to reach me. Then I did something final. I changed my name. Not for show. Not for drama. Just for ownership. I took my grandfather's surname. The only man in the family who ever looked me in the eye and didn't flinch when I cried. My first name remained. But somehow it sounded different now. Unshackled. The new office was small. Clean. Sharp. No distractions. No clutter. No people I didn't choose. Above the entrance, I mounted a silver plaque. We don't work with family. People asked if it was a joke. It wasn't. It was a declaration. At the opening, I didn't invite anyone from the past. No old friends of the family. No, he means well relatives. Only my team. People I trust. People who don't need me to be their emotional support system, just to function. And then something quietly perfect happened. I stopped for coffee one morning. Same order. Same location. And heard a voice behind me. My mother. I hadn't heard her voice in months. It was exactly the same, and yet somehow smaller. She saw me. Froze. I turned, looked her straight in the eyes, and walked past her like she was no one. No anger. No words. Just silence. For the first time in her life, she didn't speak. And for the first time in mine, I didn't care. My apartment now. High ceilings, large windows, furniture I selected. No hand-me-downs. No ghosts. No clutter. There's no family portrait on the shelf. Just a single framed photo. Me standing in front of the new office, holding the keys like a sword. And on the mailbox, a new surname. No history. No shame. A neighbor once asked why I chose it. Is it a tribute? No, I said. It's the only name that never deceived me. There's something powerful about disappearing without explaining. About letting people talk themselves in circles trying to figure out why you stopped responding, why you stopped rescuing, why you stopped being the one who always returned. They don't comprehend it wasn't a snap. It was a slow burn. Years of minor betrayals, swallowed pain, invisible sacrifices, until one day I just stepped out of the flames and didn't look back. I still get inquiries from outsiders, from people who heard something occurred. They ask, "Do you ever miss them?" I smile and say, "You can't miss what you never possessed, because what I had wasn't love, it was leverage." And the second I stopped allowing them to use it, the whole house of cards collapsed. One night, I walked past the office after hours. The silver plaque over the door caught the light just perfectly. "We don't work with family," it gleamed. And beneath it, I added a second line that week. A new engraving, small but permanent. "If you believe I owe you something, you were never family to begin with." No one will notice unless they're searching, but they will, because I know how these stories circulate. I know eventually someone will approach that door and wonder what happened to the quiet kid who used to distribute money like bandages. They'll see the plaque, they'll see the name, and they'll know he's gone. And the man who replaced him doesn't bleed for anyone. I'm not a weapon anymore, but I still know how to cut. And this time I didn't hesitate.